Welcome to the Roots and Rhythm podcast, where we explore the essence of culture, our experiences, and a healing journey that shapes our growth in family. Through heartfelt stories about marriage, mental health, relationships, and parenting, we create a space where you can find connection, understanding, and inspiration. Join us as we explore the rhythms of life, one story at a time.
What's up, everybody? Yeah, welcome to another edition of the Roots of Rhythm podcast, where we explore the rhythms of life, one story at a time. It's your boy Vlad the Bull, your number one embrace coach, and I am joined by the lovely, the one and only
Angie, last I bet mommy.
We are in the building. Angie, let's catch up. Let's catch the audience up on what's been going on with both of us, man. So I'll ask you first. What's going on with you?
It is February vacation.
February vacation,
That
which
means
means
Alana
that
is
everybody's
home.
home. Uh-oh.
Yep.
Uh-oh.
Yep. Filling our calendar with activities to keep them engaged, doing her work packet, doing all the things because she's home.
Work packet.
Play dates with her friends. Yeah, her school work packet. You think my child is not going to do work during vacation?
I don't remember. I don't remember what I did on vacation.
School is still in. Homeschool is in when school's not in, okay?
Did you get homework on school vacation?
No,
when you
but
in
my
school?
mom made me do like work.
Oh yeah,
I
don't know what we
had
did.
to do worksheets and my timetables, whatever I was working on, I had to work on it during school vacation.
I want to say that we did get work, and I just waited until the last minute to do it, and I always remember cramming. If anything, but maybe not in
No,
kindergarten.
Alana likes it because she'll do the worksheets that I have for her, and then they have like the footsteps to brilliance on the iPad, the app.
Ah.
So then she gets her screen time.
Mm-hmm.
So she's happy to do her work when it's on the laptop or
Sure.
on the tablet. But that we've been getting together. We went to ice castles. So that was fun. Just getting the kids to do something so they're not just sitting down at the house.
Yeah, man, you got to keep kids busy.
Mm-hmm.
We were supposed to join on ice castles, and quick funny story is that we were leaving, and I asked my wife. I said, "Yo, Jules, where are we going? What's the address?" And she said, just put in ice castles on your GPS.
Mm-hmm.
And so I put in ice castles on the GPS, and we drive 2 hours there.
Mm-hmm.
And as we're approaching, I start to see that we're driving through a trailer park. Now, for those of you who don't know, don't be fooled by Massachusetts and the New England conglomerate, because just because something is a part of New England doesn't mean that it espouses New England values. And why do I say that? Is New Hampshire is the South up north. Okay?
Yes. Live free or die.
Yeah, it is the closest thing you'll get to the antebellum South on the Northeast.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't dabble in deep New Hampshire for very obvious reasons.
Right.
And when I saw this trailer park, I'm like, my red flag started going up. I'm like, yo, this can't be it. Or maybe they're saving money by putting this huge thing right next to the trailer parks.
It's giving banjos. It's giving.
We don't like your kind around here. That's what I was starting to hear in my brain. And I'm like, dang, I didn't even bring my piece. So long story short, the Ice Castles monument, there was something of a landmark that was labeled Ice Castles in the Google system, which was not where we were supposed to go. So we're thinking, oh my gosh, how did this happen? So I look at Jules, I'm like, where's the GPS at? I'm like, well, what's the address? She's like, well, here's the address. And she gave me the full address. I'm like, why didn't you just give that to me when we left? And so we're like, okay, whatever. We drove all the way out here. It can't be that far because it took us 2 hours to get here. It would have taken us 2 hours to get there. So it's got to be the same distance,
you would
right?
think.
It was another 2 hours.
Another 2 hours. I was like, oh man. So yeah, Julie called me and I was so confused, but then I could tell Vlad was very frustrated. So I was like, we will talk about this later. Y'all just make it home safe at this point.
It was a difficult stretch of days, which we'll get into in another episode because I think there's a lesson in there about mental health and scheduling and being able to say no. Yes, which is a big one. Actually, we could do a whole episode on just saying no altogether. But today, we are going to do something that we've done before. We're going to have a very special guest on the show. But before we even introduce our esteemed guest, I want to make sure that you smash that subscribe button right there. Click it. Hit the smash button, like and follow. Make sure that you share this across all of your circles. Roots and Rhythm is going all the way to the top. And we want to make sure that you don't get left behind. So make sure that you smash that button so you can get updated on all of our new projects and upcoming things. So I want to introduce our guest today. He's a very good friend of mine, very esteemed individual, and I'll let the bio speak for itself, okay? So our guest today earned her master's degree in social work from Boston University's School of Social Work, which is a very competitive program, by the way.
Okay.
Where she was awarded a National Institute of Mental Health Fellowship focused on delivering culturally responsive treatment to minority populations. This is my kind of people, because we always talk about getting the treatment from people that understand your plight.
Correct.
Right? She has extensive clinical experience across community health centers, schools, substance abuse programs, and mental health agencies. Check this out. In 2011, Angie, she received her doctorate from Southeastern University.
Oh, that's in Fort Lauderdale.
That's in Fort Lauderdale. Come on now. Which is how far from you? Where
like
were you from?
40 minutes.
40 minutes. Yeah. Okay. So she was probably going to school while you were doing your thing.
Nova.
So she got a doctorate from Southeastern University in Child and Youth Studies. She currently serves as an associate professor and director of the clinical mental health program at Springfield College's School of Social Work in the Department of Counseling. And this should be noted, she's also the founder and CEO of New Generation Consultants and Associates, Inc., a consulting, coaching, and counseling practice centered on multicultural and trauma-informed care, which we're going to be getting into. I can't wait. Okay. Working with adults, teens, parents, families, she helps clients find satisfaction, balance, and growth. Her expertise in trauma, multicultural issues, and parent and family dynamics, combined with her unique blend of therapy and coaching, makes her a powerful catalyst for change. Ooh, come on now. She's especially passionate about supporting women and girls and working from the inside out to achieve their goals. Ooh, I like that.
Right.
She'll be a good mentor for the two girls. So having traveled throughout, our guest has been everywhere, okay? She's traveled throughout Africa and South America to provide trauma-informed training and consultation. She brings a holistic approach that integrates the mind, the body, and the spirit. Outside of her professional work, she enjoys music, singing, gardening. You're going to have to give me a little tip, because I tried gardening when we first moved here and it didn't work out so well. No. Traveling and spending time with family like everybody else, right? And most importantly, she enjoys her quiet time with God as a form of self-care.
Amen.
Yes. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters of the Roots and Rhythm community, please give us a warm welcome for Dr. Gayl Crump Swaby. Welcome to the Roots and Rhythm podcast, Doctor.
Welcome.
Hey, thank you for that nice warm welcome and all those things you said about that woman. I don't know who she is, but
I think she's you. I think she's you.
Toot that horn, toot.
So, I'm a very staunch advocate for giving people flowers and giving people adulation as they are here. So if any of that sounded weird, I don't know, but you deserve it, because you are a very powerful and formidable person, and I'm so blessed to have you in my life, in our family's lives, and to be on this podcast. Now, just to give everybody here a little background, Dr. Swaby and I met at the Black Boy Joy inaugural event. It's a summit for Black and Brown youth in Boston, co-opted or run by my man Craig Aarons Martin. Awesome guy. I hope to have him on the podcast soon. Actually,
one of these days.
And so I'm walking by. I got my little Embrace gear on, as always, and there were volunteers handing out breakfast and everything. And as I'm going into the kitchen by the breakfast table, this cute little sister just approaches me and she says, "Hey, what does embrace mean on your sweatshirt? What is that about?" And I'm like, "Well, it's funny you should ask." And then I go into my, where embrace came from, the book and the philosophy and the framework. She's like, "Oh, we should stay in touch." Oh, okay. Yeah, we were talking. Come to find out, this lady's a professor. She's like this huge person. I'm like, she was interested in me. I was like, what's going on? So the rest is history. Gayl and I have been working on multiple things together, and it's just such a blessing to have you here, sister. Such a blessing. So why don't you tell the audience a little bit? I mean, well, obviously we gave your bio, but why don't you tell the audience a little bit more about what you do and why you do it?
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me here. And yes, Vlad told the story of how we met, and it's funny you say little short, because my daughter calls me that all the time, because I'm the shortest, the smallest in my whole entire family. So she always reminds me of how tiny and small I am. So, but I'm proud of that because I
Yeah,
stand
tiny,
tall.
tiny but mighty.
Yes.
Tiny but mighty.
Yeah. So
You know what I
thank you for
always tell
having me here.
people, Gayl, is
Uh
that,
huh.
if people, because I've always been the short guy in the room. So if
Mhm.
people make fun of your height, you say, listen, I might be however many feet tall, but in my personality, I'm 7 feet.
Mhm.
There you go. There you go. There you go. There you go. Well, it's a pleasure meeting you too, Angie, because I've heard so much
Oh.
about you from Vlad in
Oh,
terms of,
thank you.
oh, we do
Yeah.
this podcast and da 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 da. So I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, awesome, great. So I'm happy to be here. But Vlad pretty much says in terms of what I do in regards to that. But one of the things I think he didn't mention is that I authored a book.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And my book is called Unlocking Legacy and Releasing Burdens. And one of the
Mhm.
reasons for that work, it's rooted in this simple belief, and this is what I tell people all the time, that we all inherit something, right? Whether it's stories, patterns, expectations, sometimes even the things we don't want to say we inherit, which are the wounds
Mhm.
that is deeply rooted in our DNA sometimes. And we also, however, have the power to transform that, to transform what we pass on to the next generation. So this phrase of unlocking legacies and releasing burdens in terms of what I entitled this book grew out of my own journey
Mhm.
of realizing that healing isn't just personal, it's generational. Because if you heal one generation, you're healing the next. So when we do our own inner work, we don't just change our lives, we shift the emotional DNA of our families. So as you both were talking about having younger children, this is the opportunity to make sure that you are shifting and changing the DNA of those emotions that have been passed on. So I'm passionate really about helping people understand that they don't have to carry everything they were handed,
Mhm.
and that if we create healthier legacies, it's possible for every single one of us to heal and to live healthy. So that's my goal in this work that I do.
No, I love that. And you brought up a good topic about like the generational healing. So when someone does that work of doing that generational healing, healing that generational trauma, what changes can they expect to see in their own marriages, parenting, and overall family legacy? Because you also brought up legacy.
That's a great question.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So the whole thing about that phrase of this thing about legacy and not passing it on was meant to protect the family, right?
Mhm.
And when you think about marriages per se, I think that's what
Mhm.
you were asking me about in
Mhm.
terms of families and marriages, and how do we you know even parent differently.
Yes.
Hmm.
What I've found is that healing creates space,
Hmm.
and space for healthier communication, deeper intimacy, and more intentional parenting.
Hmm.
So if you're healed, you can do those things. You're more intentional about how you parent, as you both were talking about, the activities and the things you do with
Mhm.
your spouses and your children, right?
Mhm.
So you become less reactive and more reflective. Less
Oh, I
reactive,
like that.
more reflective. So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
stop repeating the patterns and you start choosing the way in which you respond in your marriage, in the way you talk to your children, and your overall family, right? And what I've learned is that children benefit because they grow up in a home where emotions are allowed, right?
Hmm.
Where
Mhm.
boundaries are respected and love is expressed with more clarity instead of fear, right? So when kids see that, so a lot of times parents don't have to say anything. All children do is observe. You know that poem that says children live what they learn, right? So they're observing behavior. So parents can say one thing, but if your behavior shows another, that's what the kids pick up on, the behavior, right? So what we want is for the legacy to shift from survival to wholeness. And then you become the ancestor who changed the story, right? So
wow.
That's how I think of it when we think of marriage and parenting. And one of the things you both were talking about was, having kids do, schoolwork during school break. Do you do work during vacation? So we are teaching our kids not
Yikes!
to
Don't put
take
me
a
on the
break.
spot.
Teaching our kids not to
You right.
unwind or take a break during school vacation. So they grow up believing even
that's
during my
fair.
vacation,
That's fair.
I'm going to work. Just putting it out there.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Thank you. To be fair, it's not 6 hours of school. I just want her to do a page, Keep it fresh.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. She shouldn't have to do that.
Okay.
Thanks for advocating for Alana.
I think that's pretty interesting.
But
I
that's
never
true.
even thought about
No,
that.
me neither. But why do I do it, Vlad? Because I had to do work, and it made sense to me. Like, okay, so she's not like not getting lazy. I'm not gonna go that far, but like it just stays sharp, like the things that she's learning. So it's an easier transition.
Think about how many times that we heard as a kid in our households that you're not doing this because you're lazy. Your output is matched with who you are, not with what you're experiencing. And I saw something online the other day that said that it was for parents, right? And it said that we oftentimes when we're responding to our children's behavior, we think we're responding to something they've done, but more than often we're responding to something that, because whatever they're doing is reminding us or it's triggering us to remember something that we experienced as children that we didn't get to do. So a classic example is, if a child talks back to you, you get really upset, right?
Yes.
With Lito, I'll give you a perfect example. When Lito, he talked back to me, be like, no, and it just lights a fire in me.
Oh, I'm burning up on the inside. Yeah. I've told you that before, but it's like obviously I'm not gonna do anything, but I would have got my mouth slapped off.
Word.
Slapped off.
Like I used to tell Lito all the time, you don't understand how easy you have it because nobody is pulling out a whip. Nobody's pulling out a cord. Nobody's pulling out, like, all my mom had to do at a certain point. She even had to say or threaten.
Oh, no.
She would, you know what she would do, Gayl? She would just dangle the belt buckle. And I could hear that belt buckle from like a block away.
Yeah.
And I would be conditioned. And so I'm like, oh, when I saw that Instagram thing and just what you just said right now, Gayl, I was like, oh, is my activities, the way that I react to certain things is I'm actually conditioning him to be compliant, which is not the exact opposite of what I want him to do.
That's what we need to hear too, Gayl, because my husband tells me all the time that I can't relax. I always have to do something. And I even come get Miss Gayl, Dr. Gayl. I even come here and Vlad's dishes are dirty. Who washes them?
Oh my God.
I come upstairs
because I'm like,
Angie, what are you doing?
Then I'm like, what are you doing?
I'm like, yo, chill.
How long has this been here?
That's in your DNA. It's ingrained in your DNA.
I cannot help myself.
Yes.
Girl, it's crazy.
So while we're on that, I think we're on to something really fascinating that's going to speak to those of us in our audience who are Caribbean raised, as we all are. Shout out to the Caribbean. You will not find more resiliency anywhere else in the world than the Caribbean. I'll tell you that. Because when I think of the Caribbean, when I think of people who hail from the Caribbean, the first word that comes to my mind is liberation. Is we showed the world collectively together, whether we were colonized by the Spanish or the French, what liberation should be like and what it should feel like. And that set the tone for liberation around the world. But I think oftentimes we carry down that proud tradition of liberalism And we forget that, we're carrying a lot of trauma too, right? So, Gayl, I want to ask you, in the vein of identifying what we should carry and what we should let go as we translate through the generations, how do cultural values around privacy and strength sometimes prevent families from healing, right? Because most of us were raised being told what happens in this house stays in this house.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Yes. So I want to start with this, as you were talking about, Caribbean families and, lots of people in the Caribbean being liberated, and which is true. I also think that the piece around liberation, they might have had physical liberation, but did they have mental liberation? Two different things.
Mental liberation.
Dang, it's so good.
So the thing is, we talk about being mentally enslaved. So you might have been freed physically, right? So you did all you needed to do. You planned all the things you needed to do in order to be liberated physically. But I think sometimes there's still some parts of our way of thinking and being and values that is not liberated at all. So we can park that there to answer your question about this thing about what happens in the house stays in the house. Yes, because that is so true. So that phrase was meant to protect families, but it often protected the pain instead. Right?
Can you elaborate on that?
Difference. So silence became the value. So we value silence. So you protect the family by being silent, but deep on the inside, you are still experiencing that pain that you're really protecting. So you're protecting the physicality of the family, right? We're not going to share this about Aunt Joe or Uncle, you know, I said Aunt Joe, Aunt Mary or Uncle Joe, right? However, because you're holding that silence in, that's where the real pain is, right? The silence of holding that. So we learn to hide our wounds rather than heal them. So if you think about it, many cultures equate vulnerability with weakness, and especially within the Caribbean culture. So generations of children and generation of people, we grow up believing they must endure instead of express. So they believe that resilience is holding on and keeping everything silent, keeping it on the inside, and that's what makes us strong. But in reality, it's also killing us on the inside. So we're being weakened on the outside, on the inside, but we feel we have that strength by showing that we can handle this on the outside. So the problem is that unspoken pain doesn't disappear because it's internal. So it leaks out in our relationships, our parenting, and our self-worth. And what we know is that healing requires us to be honest, and honesty can't grow in secrecy. There's no way. Because if you're being secret about something, how can you be honest about what's happening for you, right? So when we shift from the image of we have to protect the image to protect the people, families finally have room to breathe and repair. So it's more about protecting the image of the family rather than, you know, anything else. So how can we shift from protecting the image to protecting the people?
Yeah. And it's hard too because I know this happens in a lot of family where there's been like abuse and people protect the abuser because people can't know that this is
Yes.
happening.
Right.
Which is so hard because I know we teach the girls there are no secrets.
Yeah.
Like no adult should, one, need your help with anything, or two, tell you to keep a secret. Like you come and tell us right away. But I feel like when you have like that blurred line, because I'm telling her or I'm telling them, don't say this because what happens in this house stays in this house. But then I'm telling her, but there can't be no secrets. Are there secrets or are there not? You know what I mean?
Mixed
Like,
messages,
and
mixed
why?
messages, yes.
Right. Exactly. So it's like, and what is happening in this house that you couldn't be able to tell someone? Like, there shouldn't be anything happening that should be a secret or, happens in this house, stays in this house. So yeah, for sure.
One of my favorites from childhood was my mom there would be two major threats. And I actually learned in conversations with the people I grew up around, who are also coincidentally all raised by immigrants from the Caribbean. First one was, if you act up, I'm gonna put you in a box and send you to Haiti. And so all I would think about is being crammed like a tuna fish in a crate next to industrial goods on the way to a country that I've only been to twice. And at that time, I was only in 8th grade. I didn't even speak Creole. I only understood it. I'm like, man, I don't want to do that. And the second threat for compliance, because it's all out of compliance, right? The second threat was, if you go and tell somebody what's going on in this house, mind you, there was domestic violence, there was abuse, there was some neglect, and not all of it was my mother's fault. She was surviving alongside me, right? But that's what always confused me, was that the second threat was, well, if you tell anybody what's going on in this house, they're going to tell child services and they're going to take you away.
Oh, that was our threat.
Yes,
that was our threat. They're going to take you away and no one's going to love you like us.
Right. And so it's almost reminiscent though, right, Angie and Gayl, of the slave master and the slave relationship, where you're so dependent on your caregiver, even if we're, I don't want to make any bones. I'm not comparing my mom and our relationship to slavery, but what I'm saying is that these traditions of threatening to get compliance, of using violence to get compliance, of using isolation, right, to send a message, all of that doesn't come out of nowhere, and it's become so autonomic throughout the generations that my mom didn't even think about it. Now you got to also consider this: when my mom, a lot of Caribbean parents don't talk at all about what they went through about their childhood.
Absolutely.
To your point, Gayl, silence is golden. You just endure. You're not. Nobody told you to speak. You just got to be here. And it was just fascinating to me that my mom would actually tell me stuff, because my dad wouldn't tell me anything, right? And my dad would say stuff like, or my mom would say stuff like, yeah, we were made to kneel for hours, and we were beaten and bitten at times, and like flesh open. She's like, I don't do that to you guys, but I'm like,
Yep.
So even if the difference is marginal, it's the same traditions that we're in the same path that we're going down, and the outcomes are the same. That's what's important. So yeah,
and she didn't have to do anything, right? Because she planted that seed in your thoughts, right? So again, going back to that mental, sort of enslavement. Not that she was doing it intentionally, but it was a way of her trying to protect you. Right. But not realizing that sometimes the way in which we try to protect in a lot of ways can be harming as well, based on the seeds you're planting.
And I know we both try to rise above and teach the kids lessons that our parents taught us, but also unlearn the things that we don't want to continue with them. So Dr. Gayl, for couples that are raising children, what are some practical ways to break the unhealthy generational patterns without dishonoring our parents or culture, right? Because we still want to pass down the good, but kind of stop the things we don't want to continue.
I would say it really starts with not blaming, right? So not blaming your parents for what they didn't know, not blaming, making sure that you're not blaming your parents for what they didn't know, because we tend to, a lot of times, parent the way we were parented until you see something different, you're told something different, then you begin to shift. So breaking those patterns doesn't require blaming anyone. It just simply requires being aware, right? It's the awareness. And once you are now aware, it's time to do something different. So the first practical step would be to name what you want to continue and what you want to dismantle, right? That's where it really starts. You know the things that you felt um, were useful and beneficial in how you experience love from your parents, right? That was good, that was helpful. So those are the things you keep, and those are the things you pass on. But then there are other things that weren't useful, weren't helpful, and you saw how it, impacted your life. Those are the things that you want to dismantle and get rid of. So you can honor your parents' intentions while choosing different methods, right? You don't have to choose the same methods that they did. So another step to parenting, I would say, as you're thinking about, how do I raise my children to be adults, different adults than we were raised to be? We must parent with curiosity instead of autopilot. And I have been, that parent too. I have two young adults now, right? One is 23 and one is 20. And of course, when they were younger, of my I first fell into what my parents did, but then I realized that as I was doing some of the things that my parents did, I didn't like those things. So if I didn't like it, what makes me think my kids are gonna like it? Right? So I started to be more aware of how I was impacting my children based on how I was parenting. So parent with curiosity instead of autopilot, and ask yourself, is this response coming from my values or my conditioning? Makes a difference. Is it coming from my values or the way in which you were conditioned? That one simple question will give you a lot of answers. And then finally,
now I'm conflicted. Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. And finally, and then we can get to you. Communicate openly with your partner about the home you want to create. Be clear about that. And you both should be on the same page around that. So it's not about rejecting your culture, because sometimes people think that's what they need to do. Well, I have to reject this that I believed in or what my parents did. No, it's not really not about rejecting your culture. You're refining it so that your children can do something different.
I like that.
So that the next generation has more emotional tools than you did during your conditioning. So, yeah.
Refinement versus rejection. That is going to be a banger.
Yikes. What I was gonna say is, it's funny, how you called me out about Alana doing her work, but to me, it was like fine. One, because it happened to me, and two, because I want her to keep learning. But I feel like that's why we have to have these conversations, because I would have never thought about it that way until you said it, and it's true. Why would I want to work on my vacation? Fair. Right? But again, I wasn't thinking like that. I was thinking about that's what happened to me. And again, to your point, like values, or what was it? Values versus condition. That is a value, and I was conditioned, right? But that's not something we have to continue. So
yeah, and I also like to highlight too for our parents.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, because
and so our parents.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be she can still learn, but not in the way it happens for school learning, right? Yes. So refining it is the piece that's important.
Fair.
You said something interesting, Angie, that Wallace often says that you can't relax.
Oh yeah, he does tell me that.
Right.
I can't.
And you and I talk about that all the time, about how we can't relax. And it was only recently that I would only relax up until recently if I just hit a wall. Right. And that's the only time. Forced relaxation, either through just physical exhaustion or mental incapacitation, right? Where, like, for example, this past weekend, to be transparent, I had like a literal breakdown. I was so overwhelmed. And it was because I was relying on that conditioning, that bit of conditioning that's left in my psyche that says you have to just swallow your pride, reject yourself for the greater good. And part of that conditioning came from growing up in a household where people who were raising you had to do everything. Like, think about how hard it is to immigrate from a country that you were born in to another country, learn the language, and that's on top of the stuff that you've already inherited. And so, to both of your points, the difference between where we are, and this is where awareness comes in, I feel, for myself speaking, is realizing that I don't have the same plight in front of me that my mom and my dad had. And so therefore, whatever tools that I need to use on a day-to-day, whatever the tools that they use are not really going to be applicable here. And my parents didn't have intervention. I don't know if your parents had intervention. I don't know if your parents had intervention, Dr. Gayl.
No, they didn't.
But you wouldn't know, or they wouldn't know that, dang, I actually really didn't even need to raise my kids this way, or I really actually don't need to do this. The example I always give is my mom. We have an unfinished basement at my mom's house. She lives there with my brother. And periodically, my mom will go down in the unfinished basement. Not a dirt floor, but it's like concrete, whatever gets dusty. It's dirt because it's unfinished. My mom will go down there for hours and be sweeping and collecting and putting it in bags and throwing it away with the mask on her face. And then she'll be complaining that she's exhausted. And the other day, recently, I told my mom, I'm like, you do realize you're sweeping and collecting dirt.
Vlad, like, don't even bring up sweeping dirt, because we used to have to do that at my grandma's house, okay? Her backyard in the country, in El Campo, we had to sweep the dirt. And we're like, Mama, why do we have to do this? And she's like, that's what you do. What's there? What is there? And if she passes by and you're not sweeping that dirt, what is happening, Vlad? She wants to go back to Haiti and sweep the dirt.
Well, you know what's wild? I used to think that it was, so my mom drilled a couple of things into us, right? Every Sunday is cleaning day. That means the whole house got music, bleach.
That was our Saturday.
Right. So you just cleaning everything. And it used to be the toothbrush and the bathtub. And God help you if you don't.
The grout,
the bathtub, the kitchen. And I'm actually grateful for that, because it made me cleanly as an adult. But the difference is now is I'm not like panicking because Sunday has come and went and I didn't clean my whole house, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's really hard to shake that.
But we talked about that during New Year's.
Yeah.
Remember, I was like, I am not gonna clean the whole house before the New Year's Day, because that's like what we did, and wash all the clothes and organize everything, because you have to go into the new year spick and span. And I was like, no, I'm gonna relax, and I'm gonna take the first week of January to do everything versus just doing it on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Did you have to power wash the house?
You have to do everything.
Power wash the house, take a hose and hose the whole house down on the outside, and
wash the walls and the inside. That's what we used to have to do.
Inside.
Wash the walls.
We had the louvers. We had to wash the louvers. Wow. And yes, absolutely.
We used to, so every New Year, we'd get new sets of pajamas because it's the New Year, which I actually didn't mind, because my mom would go all out and get us silk pajamas. Yeah. But what was weird, though, as an adult when I moved out and I'm like, all right, do I really want to do this, is that we would spend, instead of periodically cleaning the house and getting prepared, it would be like a rush that weekend or the few days preceding to clean every inch of the house, to rearrange your closet, rearrange your room. Yes. Everything has to be made anew. And we'd be up until like the 11th hour doing this. And I mean the 11th hour literally, because it was literally 11:55 and you're still sweeping and cleaning and trying to get things ready before the strike. Because if it strikes midnight, first of all, it can't even strike 11:55, because you got to be, we used to have to be in the room with my mom, ajinu, which means on your knees, praying intentfully. And I don't even know what's going on. I'm just there because my mom's
into the new year.
Right. Praying into the new year. And then it's like Happy New Year. There's essence everywhere. My mom's walking around with the incense. And you know what I mean? Rice is being thrown. The other day I found, a couple months ago, I found some rice in Lito's playpen.
Yeah, from
and
her throwing it around.
And mom was like, Vladimir, keep those. I'm like, I don't want my son eating raw rice.
I know.
Can we make... So I think it's in that moment I realized, like, dang, this actually isn't applicable. But while we're talking about relationships, Gayl, I want to ask you, because you mentioned earlier that if we don't know what we've inherited, how it starts to bleed over into different relationships and different aspects of our lives.
Yes.
So my question is, what does that look like for people who are married and in long-term relationships? Because we talk at length in this podcast about relationships, about practical tools for longevity.
Yes.
But how do those unhealed childhood wounds show up in those relationships, even when we think we've moved on and we're healed?
Yeah, that's it. Moved on and believe you're healed. That's that part of it. So unhealed wounds don't disappear. They're there until a lot of times we get into long-term relationships, and that's when those unhealed wounds show up, because our partner may say something that, reopen those wounds, and that's when you realize, I haven't really moved on, or I'm not healed. They simply may get better at disguising themselves, right? But they don't disappear.
That's what it is.
That's the key.
They know how to disguise themselves. So they show up in our triggers, our communication patterns, and the way we respond during conflict, right? And I often say this to, a lot of my clients who, are in long-term relationships, and they both have had some kind of trauma in their lives. And what I share with them is that a lot of times when they are in conflict with each other, a partner's tone can activate an old memory. A disagreement can feel like abandonment. So if you experience abandonment from a parent or caretaker, if you are in disagreement with your partner, then it's not just an agreement, it feels like a sense of abandonment. A simple request can feel like it's a criticism. So then we think we've moved on as adults, but in reality, our nervous system remembers what our mind is trying to forget. So until we address the body keeps the score, and until we address those early experiences, what ends up happening is that we're reacting during the age in which we were wounded. So let's say, for example, you had, your parents abandoned you at the age of 12, and you're in conflict with your partner around a disagreement, right? And automatically that 12-year-old shows up, because that's when feelings of abandonment was first introduced to you, when that parent abandoned you. So that 12-year-old shows up, your 30-something-year-old self in that moment disappears, and that 12-year-old shows up and responds to that feeling of abandonment as though it is happening in that moment, when in reality, it happened when you were 12. And because it's not healed, that unhealed wound or that unhealed 12-year-old shows up in that relationship. So let's say both folks had some level of wound. So now my 12-year-old self is talking to your 13-year-old self. So the two adults are really not communicating. It's our child wounds that are communicating with each other. So until we get to a place of recognizing that, then we continue to respond from that place of wound. So it doesn't disappear. It just disguises itself in different ways.
That's going to be key.
Right.
I think that's going to be key for our audience, because oftentimes people decide at some point that because they chose to move on, that it should be. Now, I understand manifestation, right? And it's important to do that. A man is as he thinketh. However, when you don't realize, to your point, Gayl, when you don't realize what's going on in those moments, those outcomes already repeat before you even had a chance to pull it back.
Right.
And the abandonment is when you were talking about that, doctor, really spoke to me, because abandonment ruled my life, right? And so every intimate relationship, we talked about it on this podcast, where even in high school, where those relationships are basically like throwaways, right? They don't even really count, but they do.
They matter to you at that time. It's the most important
thing.
At
that time.
Yeah, and like,
absolutely,
I mean,
yes.
At that time. But every single time something would go wrong, or somebody would give me a piece of criticism or feedback, or I even thought I got the slightest inkling that they wanted to move on, I was quickly ready to abandon them before they did it to me, because I was not going to I was not going to be 9 years old again. Right. I was not going to be 10 years old again. I was not going to be 12 years old again. Like, I'm not going to do that anymore. And it literally almost sabotaged my relationship with Jules, because here I have a good thing, but I can't recognize or identify who is safe, because everybody's a threat. I'm constantly dysregulated. And that is just that's just like the heartbeat, where there's a lot of chaos and confusion, and you're just in survival mode. And it makes me, and as I've gotten older, it made me wonder, right? Like, I wonder what that heartbeat feels like for my mom, or what it even felt like for my dad, who's the source of my abandonment.
Yeah.
And it's just fascinating, because correct me if I'm wrong, doctor, is it IFS?
Internal family system.
Inner family systems.
Internal
theory,
family
is that what it
system.
Is? Internal.
Yes, IFS. Yes.
And yeah, could you explain that for the audience a little bit?
Yeah, so that's pretty much what I was talking a little bit about, the internal family system, where it is that we all have different parts of us that, have not been healed, right? And we all have these parts, right? We have parts that are joyous, parts that get angry, parts that are anxious. So we all have these different parts. And then we have these parts where was abandoned. So what happens with that is that a lot of times, if those parts have not gotten the opportunity to experience being seen, being heard, being valued, then they often show up in those times as protectors, sometimes as a way to protect us in our current age, when those parts don't need to work so hard anymore, because you're now 35, or you're now 45, or you're now 55. And it's really healing those younger parts and letting them know that at the age of 55, you can handle this sense of this feeling that you're experiencing, and you don't need to respond to it the same way you did when you were 5 or 10 or 15, right? And then there are some parts that are considered like firefighters, right? Those parts jump in to put out whatever they think is going to hurt us in that moment. So for some people, a firefighter could be a sex addiction. It can be a substance use addiction. It can be an eating disorder. So that's what the firefighters do. They come in and take over, because it's their way of protecting you from something that you may have experienced when you're younger. So the internal family system is saying that we all have this family, this system that have different parts, that has different roles, and that have been playing those roles for such a long time that they don't realize that, you are now older, and you don't need to respond the same way you responded when you were younger. So the work requires to connect with those younger parts, be in dialogue with those younger parts, get to know those parts, so that they can heal and not be stuck in that time frame of when those things first happened for them.
Oh, wow. So good. Oh, I feel like I'm getting some free therapy right now. I don't know about you, sis.
I know. A lot of things to consider, think about. I know. I feel like Vlad and I are just in our heads thinking about everything.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely in deep thought right now. Which I told y'all, this is the oracle. This is what she do. On that topic, so when we're talking about those children of ours that we carry with us, into many different facets of our lives, realizing that we don't need to be the same level of protection that we once did. I want to talk about high achieving adults. Right, you were talking about sweeping, and just you can't relax.
I am very high achieving. As I say, I'm a recovering perfectionist. I'm letting go little by little. I'm not fully recovered, but it's definitely deep in there. And I think that's where my anxiety comes from too, because it's like if things aren't the way that they need to be in my brain. And that's something else that Wallace tells me. He's like, Angie, do you want it done or you want it done your way? Because he gets it done. And he likes to tell me that. And I'm like, you right. I'm a back away.
Begrudgingly.
Right. I'm burning on the inside, but you right. So yeah, go ahead and ask your question.
Well, you know what? Actually, that's a good point, because how often, though, were you given that off ramp as a child?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Like never, right?
No, it had to be done, and it had to be done the way it had to be done.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So then, if you were never given the off ramp, then how can you give yourself the off ramp? I didn't even know this highway had an off ramp.
Listen, I'm in competition with just myself. Like, I have this, again, if y'all were in my brain, why? Oh, I'm going to get here this time because I got to beat how I got. Yeah, I have to beat this because I did it this way last time, but I can beat my record. Why are we in a hurry? Why am I in a hurry? You know, and I was telling Vlad that I think sometimes too, my frustration with the girls, it's like, just hurry up and do it. And I have to tell myself, go slow. Like, why are we rushing?
Right.
There is no deadline. Like, if they go to sleep 15 minutes after bedtime because they really wanted me to read another book, who cares? Only me. So why not just slow down, you know? So,
and I wonder if there's a piece of it that is almost like it's not resentment targeted at your kids, but it's almost resentment of the fact that they get to choose to push their deadline or to go to bed 10 minutes later, or they get the luxury of talking back without getting their face slapped off, right? And I don't get that. Like, but I also like to think that that's part of what was happening for my dad too. And so for many people, they're like, well, I didn't get this, so why should you? Life wasn't easy for me, so why should it be easy for you? And realizing that actually as parents, you want that.
That's what we want.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, I want you to have a great life. Yeah.
Yes. So you're talking about, adults who are high achieving and they look like they've got it all together, I'm sometimes that person, right? I look like I have it all together, but in reality, I've had parts of me that don't have it all together. So what I've learned about high achievers, being one of them, is that we learn that early on that being useful or excellent was the safest way to receive love or avoid harm.
Yep.
To receive love or avoid harm. Right?
So that's what we can't learn. Talk about this. My heart.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, so take a deep breath. Take a moment.
But literally, though. Literally.
Wow.
Yes.
So Dr. Gayl, so how does trauma sometimes disguise itself as ambition, perfectionism, or overachieving? Because I feel like they're all connected.
Absolutely. So let's start with achievement. Achievement becomes your armor. Perfectionism becomes protection. And over functioning becomes your identity. So you have an armor.
Wow.
You have your protection. And then it's your full identity. So what trauma does is that it teaches us to, in a lot of ways, outrun our feelings of staying busy, productive, and impressive. And you know what happens? All those parts get exhausted because they're working so hard to keep that armor on, to be the protector, and to maintain an identity to impress. And it becomes exhausting. So you get tired and you're wondering, why am I having to run here, run there? And sometimes you're doing it and don't realize until your body says slow down. So you get the flu, you start to feel aches and pains, you get headache, because that's your body saying, or those parts of you saying, hey, we are running on E, and we can't continue to do perfectionism the way we are doing it. We can't continue to hold on to this armor of achievement. We can't continue to staying busy, being productive, and impressing. So the internal exhaustion is actually a sign that the drive isn't coming from passion. Because sometimes we think it's coming from, oh, I'm passionate about this and I'm doing well at this. You know where it's really coming from? Survival. We are trying to survive.
Oh, wow.
Survive, not thrive. Lord.
Exactly.
Whew, man.
So what
This is so
healing
good.
does,
So good.
yeah. So what healing does is that it helps us shift from performing to living. Two different things. When you're performing, you're so exhausted. When you're living, you're full, you're free, you're liberated, right? So
Right.
that's what, it looks like when the adult is sometimes high achieving.
Now, Gayl, you work with women and girls, right? To help them work from the inside out. I'm curious.
Yeah.
What are some of the narratives that the women carry that keep them from living fully? And if you can also speak to that, because I know that you work with women and girls, but if you could also speak to the narratives that men carry as well, that kind of that feed into this facade, the protection, all that.
Yes. So a lot of the narratives that women carry, and especially women of color, right? Because we have to navigate the world very differently, or we're forced to navigate the world very differently than our white counterparts, right? So the narratives are, I have to be strong all the time, not some of the time, not in this present moment, but all of the time. So no matter where they are, they have on that armor of being strong all the time. The belief, again, is that my needs come last, or if I speak up, I'll be seen as difficult. For men, the armor is a lot of times, um, I have to stay working. So that's my way
Yeah.
of letting my family know that I love them. So I'm not spending quality time with my children and my partner because I am working so hard, and that's showing that I'm being a good male person in their lives, right? So they are, in a lot of ways, not taking care of the other parts of their lives that needs other things as well, right? And there's some people who believe that in order to rest or to love or to be worthy, they have to earn it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's a huge
And that's
piece
both
of it.
men and women, right? That you just can't rest. You just can't feel this sense of worthiness. You just can't be loved. That you have to do something in order to earn love, to earn worthiness, and to earn rest. However, they're inherited, right? These things are inherited because we saw how our parents lived and what they needed to do in order to survive. So we do the same thing. They're inherited from our families, they're inherited from our culture, and also from society and how society expects us to show up. So a lot of times it shapes how both women and men show up in relationships, in our careers, and even in your own body. You show up very differently. And sometimes you're not even aware of it. So outwardly, you might look one way, but in your body, you show up. So think about spaces you've walked into, right? And as soon as you walk into that space and you kind of check out the environment, something shifts within you. So are you shifting into your authentic self, or are you shifting into your performing self? Who is showing up in that moment? And how hard are you working to have this other self show up just in order to survive, right?
Mm.
So the goal is to rewrite those narratives. Both men and women need to rewrite those narratives. That's why sometimes relationships can be difficult, because we walk into relationships with narratives that don't belong to us, narratives that we inherited. So it's important that we stop
Mm.
shrinking who we are, and we learn to live
Mm-hmm.
with intention, confidence, and self compassion, which is so key. Self compassion. If you can have some self compassion for yourself and reminding yourself, I am just human. I tell folks sometimes
Mm.
I'm a recovering human, right? I'm learning how to
Mm-hmm.
be
Recovering.
human. Yes, learning how to be human, how to
Mm.
have compassion for myself. So it's important that we stop shrinking. We live with intention, compassion, and confidence.
Wow, so good. My
Love that.
mentor, he told me something that I didn't appreciate until maybe a bit after he told me. He said, You were not a
Hmm.
human being.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you were not a human doing, you were a human
Being.
being."
Human
Mm-hmm.
being.
And
Yes.
I was like, dang, why you gotta come at my soul like that, bro? Like why you gotta come at
Mm-hmm.
my neck like that, man? Like what you talking about? And
Hmm.
everything you said is just so good, Gayl. And for men, we've talked about it on this podcast where men are conditioned typically to show their love through provision
Yep.
Yes.
versus through
Like
authentic. Yeah.
nurture, and
And actually, I have a friend of mine, a prayer partner, great guy. He told me that, because I expressed to him, like, hey, brother, I'm having a hard time, sometimes connecting to my son.
mm-hmm.
And this is when Lito was really young and I was going through it. And he's like, well, Vlad, you got to understand, it's okay. You're not meant to nurture him. That's not like part of your DNA. And
Mm-hmm.
I asked him, why not?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Is that true? Or is that just what we're taught to
Yeah,
believe?
conditioned.
Because like I
Yes,
want to be
conditioned.
nurturing.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yes,
want to be
yes.
emotionally available. You're telling me that it's not in my DNA, but I've heard this from many men before.
It is in your
So
DNA.
it's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
It is in your DNA, but the nurturing would look different. It doesn't have to be the same
Mm-hmm.
way that,
Right.
your wife nurtures
It's
him.
your way.
But your
Mm,
nurturing is going to look different, and it's nurturing, right?
mm,
So it is in your DNA because you're human.
mm,
Yes.
Yeah. I have a question. We're talking about conditioning and the things that happen to us and then carrying that generational trauma. How do
Hmm.
we recognize, Dr. Gayl, when we're carrying generational trauma versus just dealing with day-to-day life stresses? Like what sets
Mm.
those apart?
Hmm. Generational trauma often feels bigger than the moment you're in.
mm,
Wow.
So, in other words, it out your reaction outweighs the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say, for example, I'm going to use you again, Angie.
Oh,
You
perfect.
walk, yes, and this may not be general, but it's just an example of something, right?
Mm,
In terms of how the reaction outweighs the situation. So you walk into Vlad's house and you see the dishes pile up in the sink. They're fine with it. They're okay
mm-hmm.
with it. They know that, an hour later that it's going to get washed, or it's going to get washed before the night is in, or whatever they have decided how they do that.
Mm-hmm.
But for you, maybe that's
Mm-hmm.
something that was triggered when you walked in and you saw that. And the situation is, it's just the dishes. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But your reaction to it outweighs that it's dishes in the sink. That's all it is.
Mm,
The dishes is not causing a fire. The
Yep.
dishes is not getting in the way of you walking into the kitchen, right? But your
Exactly.
reaction to seeing it outweighs the fact that they're
Mm.
sitting there in the kitchen, right? So
Amen. Yep.
that's what the she says amen. I have an
Mhm.
amen corner. So that's
Let the church say amen. Can I get an
that's
amen?
right.
Hallelujah.
That's
Amen.
right.
Hallelujah.
That's right. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So it often feels bigger than the moment that you're in.
Yeah.
So um, you might feel fear, shame, and this is anybody. So I'm outside of
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
example. So what happens is that the
Right.
person feels some fear, some shame, or anger, and it doesn't match with what's happening in the present moment. That's
Mhm.
Mm.
generational trauma, right? And then you may also notice that some of those patterns are repeating across your family. So things like anxiety, silence, conflict,
Mhm.
avoidance,
Yep.
perfectionism, what
Yep.
which we talked about, or emotional distance, right? And that stays with you longer. That is continuous. That happens in that moment when you get triggered. Whereas
Mhm.
normal stress passes when the situation changes,
Mhm.
right?
Wow.
But generational trauma lingers, it echoes, it resurfaces until you acknowledge it. This is what's happening for me. This is how I'm experiencing this. So until you
Mhm.
acknowledge it, it continues on, it lingers, it's echoing throughout, your life, throughout your household, throughout your relationship, and it always resurfaces. It doesn't end. Whereas normal stress changes once the situation changes, and you no longer revisit it again.
Right.
Mm. I'm reading a couple books right now, but one of the books I'm reading is about Buddha and about Buddha's
Mhm.
teachings. And
Mm.
one of the when on the chapter I'm reading, it's talking about meditation, and it's talking about stopping. There's two, and don't quote me because I'm literally, all these names are so long I don't even know how to say them for what they're called, because there's so many different schools of Buddhism. But
Mhm.
one of the when we're talking about meditation, one of the things that the first steps, I think there's 5 steps. One of the most important steps, and being at the first, is recognition. So to your point, Gayl, recognizing, okay, I feel angry, instead of just
Mhm.
trying to shift your mind to a happy thought, which is
Right.
also part of our conditioning, is as
Mhm.
soon as you feel
Yes.
angry, get happy.
What do I
Mhm.
have here? Say no
Mhm.
to toxic positivity.
Right.
I hate that.
Uh-huh.
I didn't even know toxic positivity was a thing until one of my boys told me, and I was like, "You can't be. What's wrong with being too
It's
positive?"
okay to be angry, but why are you angry? It's like figuring it
Right.
out and like moving from
Mhm.
it. But you have to
Mhm.
sit in it a little bit so it doesn't happen again.
Yes.
And identifying that I am
Yes.
angry. That anger is
Mhm.
a part of me right
Yes.
Yes.
now.
Yes.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that is not something that I learned until I got into EMDR.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
EMDR really taught me how to reprocess childhood trauma in a
Mhm.
different way than talk therapy did. And I had no choice but to answer the questions that I didn't want to answer, that I could
Mhm.
honestly dilly-dally around in talk therapy, which is, what's coming for you now?
Mhm.
That's what my EMDR therapist would always do. She do the whole,
Look over here.
Mhm.
Look
the
over
eye
here.
thing,
What are you
Mhm.
and
noticing?
then
What are you noticing?
what are you
Yes.
what are you noticing? What is coming for you now? Notice that, and
Mhm.
then she'll do it again. And I used to get so frustrated in the beginning when we first started. I'm like, stop asking me what I'm feeling, yo.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
I don't want to feel these
And she's
things.
like, "You're paying me to do this."
Right. Now I wouldn't tell her like, hey, can you
Right.
stop
Right.
asking me questions?
Right.
But I'm like, yo, um, so recognizing is and accepting the fact that there's a feeling there, as unpleasant as it may be,
Mhm.
is not
Mhm.
something that, if you're steeped in trauma, you learn how to do. You're just going from one
Right.
survival situation to the next, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Yes. Yes.
and so, Gayl, you talked about, or we know that you use a holistic approach when it comes to your work
Mm.
with people.
Mhm.
You integrate the
Mhm.
mind, the body, and the spirit. Love that. How can
Yes.
everyday people that are listening to this
Mhm.
podcast practice holistic self care without it feeling overwhelming or without it
Yeah.
feeling expensive? Because one of the first things I hear when I
Mhm.
tell people, hey brother, maybe you should go to therapy, is I can't afford a therapist right now,
Mm-hmm.
which is valid.
Mm-hmm.
Some people don't have
Yes.
insurance,
Yes.
whatever. So how
Yeah.
can people find some of that liberation that we're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
without it feeling too overwhelming, like it's too high a
Yeah.
mountain to climb, or without feeling like they have to break the bank?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 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 Holistic. A lot of time. Well, so self care has become this. What's the word I'm looking for? It has become
Like a trigger
very
word.
Hmm.
like this elegant thing that you have to spend tons and tons of money on, or you have to either
Mm-hmm.
go for a retreat, or break your bank,
Mm.
but it's not about that, right? It doesn't
Right.
require a retreat. Holistic care doesn't require a retreat or even a budget.
Mm.
What it really requires is awareness. Going back to what you were saying earlier, being aware of what's happening, what you're noticing, what you're experiencing, and how you are walking through the day, navigating the day from sometimes hour to hour, sometimes minute to minute. So it's really about starting small and being consistent with what those small practices are. So, you don't have to pay anyone, or you don't have to go to a retreat to set boundaries around your time and your energy. That's free.
Mm. Say it. Say it.
That's holistic.
Mm-hmm.
Setting boundaries around your time and your energy is free.
Turn
So
that
you
no
get
button
to do
on.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And that's
Yes.
for the mind.
Mm-hmm.
For your body, is paying attention to what your nervous system needs in that moment. Does it need rest?
Mm-hmm.
Does it need for you to take a deep breath? Does it need movement? Does it need hydration? Right? Those things are free, right? You can get, if you choose to, water from the faucet. It's free, it's hydration.
Mm-hmm.
You can drink a
That's true.
cup of tea, right? Rest is free. It's your body. You don't have to pay anyone to sit and breathe and
Mm-hmm.
rest. That's free. That's holistic. Movement. If you have your cell phone, if you have music, or you can go for a walk in nature, all of those things are holistic and they are free.
Mm-hmm.
So I told you about the mind, setting boundaries around your time and your energy. And the second thing is for your body, which is movement, hydration, and rest. And then for your spirit, that's your spirit, your soul, create moments of stillness. A lot of people have a hard time sitting still with themselves because they're
Mm-hmm.
too
Mm.
afraid of what might come up. But use that
Mm.
as your awareness. The spirit
Mm-hmm.
requires you to have gratitude, and also you can connect with your higher power, connect with God, connect with whatever it is that you connect with, right? That's for your spirit, that's what feeds your soul. It's simply what holistic care is simply asking yourself this question: what part of me needs attention today? Today it might be feeding your mind. Tomorrow, it might be feeding your soul, your spirit. The next day, it might be movement, hydration. So it's about being aware and asking what part of me needs attention today. And then you respond with grace and with kindness.
Mm.
And if you can do that, that's holistic. It doesn't break your budget and it doesn't require a retreat.
Mm.
I love it.
Man,
That was so good.
it was. It was. I mean, there is so much value in this
Mm-hmm.
entire conversation, Doctor, that I can't even. I feel so enlightened right
Mm-hmm.
now. Just lots of food for thought. And just when you feel like you've figured some things out,
Mm-hmm.
you talk to the right person or you get around the right information, and it really makes you reflect.
That's it.
Before we get to our last question, I wanted to ask a follow up question. Something you said. You said that
Mm-hmm.
many people stay busy and dare I say, overwhelmed because it's difficult for them to sit with themselves out of fear of what will come
Yes.
up. Do you think that that fear is conscious or or subconscious?
Yeah. You know, it's it's not conscious. For a lot of people, it isn't conscious,
Mm,
because they're not aware of the fact that, well, fear is, as they say, false evidence appearing real,
mm,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that fear really isn't real, other than you believe in that it is. So
mm,
some people are afraid. They know that some people may feel this sense of something that is not right for them. And the fear is, if I sit and listen and notice, it might be something that I am not ready to deal with or to navigate. So therefore, I'm not going. That's that fear of the
mm,
unknown and the uncertainty. So that's where the conscious is the fear of the unknown, but the
mm,
subconscious doesn't know what it is that might come up.
mm,
If I'm
mm.
making, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. So then,
Mm-hmm.
what do you say to the people who are consciously aware of their
Mm,
trauma, their identity issues, the various experiences that have shaped their lives and the way that they behave? Say a person knows that they were mistreated as a child, or they know
mm-hmm,
that growing up without a parent in their lives really impacted their development, but
mm-hmm,
they're not prepared to go to therapy. They're scared to go and seek help, to ask for help, to bolster a community. They're scared of intervention in any way, shape or form, because they don't want that they fear what may come up
yeah,
beyond what they're consciously aware of. So what do you say to that person who's on the fence about healing and just doesn't know what to
yeah.
do either way?
I often say start with compassion. If you can have compassion for the not knowing, that's okay. Or the
Mm,
compassion for what you do know, what you are aware of, what you had no control over, and just give yourself some compassion and have some grace and kindness for yourself. And I know for some people that might sound like, that's, kind of woo woo, flaky kind of thing. But
mm,
so many of us have a hard time being kind to ourselves and having compassion for ourselves. And what compassion is
mm,
saying, I understand that I didn't know this, and that's okay. It's okay to not know, or it's okay that I didn't, you know, that I am not able to do this next thing that I want to do because I'm sitting in this feeling of uncertainty,
mm,
and being compassionate with yourself around that, because feelings are not facts. They don't stay forever.
Mm-hmm.
They do move. They move through. So allowing yourself to have that compassion for yourself is like the one thing we all need,
mm.
to extend
Compassion.
that to
Yep.
ourselves.
Compassion.
Yeah. And
Compassion.
curiosity. And
Mm.
curiosity.
There's a quote in one of the books I'm reading that read that empathy is the antidote to self-righteousness.
Mm.
Mm.
And when I read that, I was like, "Dang, that's deeper than I was willing to
Mm.
go this morning." I didn't even
Mm-hmm.
get to I didn't even crack my journal open yet. But and the book is about understanding the psychology between as it pertains to the divide amongst people in politics and religion,
Mm-hmm.
and it's called The Righteous Mind. Actually, it's a really good book. I highly recommend it.
Hmm.
And what's interesting about that quote and what you said is that compassion is often not the exit ramp that we even think about putting in there, because if you're raised in the Caribbean, I'm telling you, God help
There's
you
no
if you
room
feel
for
bad for yourself
compassion.
for 1 second.
Right,
Right?
right, right.
No.
Yes.
Because uh,
Yeah.
at least for me, doctor, and I don't know about you, Angie, but if I ever said, well, this doesn't feel fair to me, or I don't feel good about this, oh, well, what if you were me?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm. Mm-hmm.
You don't know what's fair. I had to do this and this and this and this.
And
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
you know what that sounds like? It actually sounds like an unintentional confession, doesn't it? Of what it is that they've been through, because these are the same people that won't tell you anything about
Mm-hmm.
when they'll tell you about history. They might tell, like, my mom told me about these things. She never really told me how they made her feel.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But like
yes.
her saying, "Well, what if you were me and we went through this?" I'm like, is it that 5-year-old that's coming up and telling me that right now?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because I'm trying to understand where there's room for my feelings in all this,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
that I feel like that I really appreciate you bringing that up, because I struggle with having that compassion for myself at times, but more so having it for my child, because I'm struggling in that gap of not having it for myself as that inner
Right.
child, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like
Yes.
not
Yes.
acknowledging the problem, because there's a running joke like that Dominicans, you'll ask them like how they're doing, and then they'll tell you the most traumatic experience, like the most traumatic week they've ever had. Half their family died, they lost the farm, all the animals, whatever, and they're like, "But I'm doing okay, thank the Lord."
Yes.
Are you
Yes.
okay though?
Yes.
God is good.
God is good though.
Yes.
I'm alive.
Yes.
Are you
Yes.
barely? You know?
Yes.
Barely.
But
Yes.
literally the most
Yes.
traumatic thing could have happened. And at the end it'd be like, well, I'm okay, thank the Lord. You know? But yeah.
It's almost to say, like, all of these things happen to me, but I can't complain about them.
But I
I'm
can't
still
complain
here.
because there's someone that has it worse. But it's okay to
Yes.
complain. And that's
It's
that
okay.
toxic
Yes.
positivity. It's like, just because you're still grateful to have all the other things doesn't mean that it's not a shitty situation right now.
Right.
You
right.
know?
Yes. Yes.
It's man, I thought just Haitians did that. I think it's a Caribbean thing,
Yeah,
man.
I think so
To
too.
do that.
Yeah. Gratitude and
And
compassion can live in the same
it's kind of too
house.
bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Gratitude
They
and
can.
compassion can
They
live in the
absolutely
same
can.
house. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, last question for you, Doctor, for the good people. We've gotten a lot of great nuggets of wisdom out of today. But when it comes to the work of doing generational trauma or healing generational trauma, this is actually a 2-part question.
Okay.
What changes do you expect a person who's embarking on this journey to see in their marriage, their parenting, their overall quality of life, their family legacy, right? Like when you're doing the work, you're showing up and you're building your reps and you're showing up for yourself every day. What changes do you expect to see? And I guess a follow-up to that would be, is there a point that you can come to where you've done all the work that you can do?
Okay. I'll start with the first one. There isn't a point where you've done all the work that you have done until you're 6 feet under. That's when the work stops. Because we are living and we are continuously living, we continuously are working on ourselves. And there are things that will shift, things that will continue to happen, may not be to the extent that, in terms of where you having to keep reliving your trauma, but you don't get to a point where you have done all of the work. You, as long as you're living, you're working, right, in terms of on self, right, and
Yep.
always striving to be a better person. That ends when you're 6 feet under. That's when it ends. Okay. So that one was easy for me to answer. The first question is in terms of what changes can folks expect in their marriage, the way in which they parent, and in family legacy. It's really being able, now you are, the changes require that you're rewriting the narrative and you're rewriting the stories, and you're not doing the things that you're not doing the things that are harmful that your ancestors were doing in order to survive, right? So what the changes you can expect is that you are living a legacy of forgiveness. You are living a legacy of compassion. You are living a legacy of passing on healing And healing is going to look very different for each person, but it's the belief that healing can happen, right? And then what happens is that you feel more liberated, you feel more free. Those are the changes that happen. More liberation, freedom, a sense of wholeness, and you're doing all of this with intentional love. You're being intentional about how you give love, how you receive love, right? So it requires, so that's what the changes can look like. In your marriage, you're being intentional, in your parenting, and in your overall family legacy. What, I always ask this question, what are you willing to hold on to? Is it still serving you or benefiting you in the way that you need it to benefit you? What do you need to let go of? And then what legacy do you want to pass on? And what legacy do you want to leave? If you
Mm.
had to write your obituary today, what would you want it to say?
Mm.
Wow.
Mm. Wow. Heavy.
That's a way to live, though.
Heavy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
I'll add to that. Another thing my mentor told me was that you don't leave a legacy, you live one. And so
Mm,
he said the legacy that you live will be the one that you leave.
Mm-hmm.
yes.
And that gave me more autonomy, right? Because when men hear legacy, they'll hear, well, I provided this, I bought my
Mm-hmm.
family that, I gave them a house, I gave them a trust fund,
Or
I
you
paid for
think,
my funeral,
yeah, or you
right?
think legacy, the things that you still have to do versus the things you've already done. So
Right.
then you're living like not in the present, you know? You're just thinking about all the things that you have left to do and I need to rush and do them
Mm-hmm.
versus enjoying like the time now where you are still moving ahead, but you're
Mm-hmm.
actually enjoying the things that you're doing, being a human being, not a human doing.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
to think about for me and what I've learned so far on my healing journey is I don't remember all the things my parents, my dad or my mom, individually or collectively, provided for me
Mm-hmm.
financially.
Mm-hmm.
What the gap and where the pain lied is in what was it that they missed out on that I really wanted them to be a part of.
Mm.
And none of that was ever financial. Like I'm not in therapy because my dad didn't buy me that bike I wanted, or because he didn't get me
Right,
that Christmas
right.
gift I wanted, or because my mom couldn't afford to put us in a Rolls Royce car.
Yeah.
Okay. It was more so I really wished that my parents were at my events. I really wished that my father was at my first communion. I really wished that my mom didn't have to work all the time and miss out on holidays. It's the legacy that we live. Now, and it's also recognizing that the legacy, that the way that they lived was set by a predetermined amount of rules. And let's face it, most Caribbean folks, no offense to you, doctor, but most Caribbean folks of that generation, of the boomer generation, or even the silent generation, as our dads are, there was no room for introspection.
Oh,
Like,
no.
there's no
Right,
time.
right. Yes.
Society didn't make it possible for
Mm-hmm.
introspection to be possible. That's why there's so much rift between us as millennials or Gen Zers, or gosh, I don't
Mm-hmm.
even know how far
Gen Alpha.
Alpha and Omega. Is it Omega?
It's beta, I think.
It's
Beta.
blasphemous, yo. Beta, okay. Like there's far more room for introspection because society has evolved that way. But for them, there was just too many. There was too much to survive through. So, yeah, I like to think that living that legacy is going to
Mm-hmm.
assure that the one that we leave is the one that we're proud of.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like
yes. Yeah.
So, Doc, thank you so much for
I know
coming
this has
on.
been so wonderful, eye-opening.
Oh,
I feel like
thank
we both
you.
have so many things to journal about, talk
Mhm.
about, think about.
And we want to make sure that everybody listening to this can learn more about you and what you do. So if somebody is
Mm-hmm.
listening to this and like us is their inner children are all just feeling so held and cuddled
Right.
and cared for,
Loved.
where can they find out more about you?
Mm. Yeah, so you can check out my website at newgenconsults.com. And I can be reached via my work cell, which is 617 506-9784. And currently, I just became a breath work instructor / facilitator. So I've been doing a lot of African-centered Sankofa breath work.
Sankofa.
Where yes,
I've got the
where
bird on my arm.
There you go. Yes, where I'm encouraging folks to go back and reclaim what they have lost and then embrace it. Using your term in terms of embrace, go back and get what you need and what you need to reclaim and embrace that into the current time. So I use breath work to help people work through that. So that's what I'm doing these days. That's where you can find me, via that number and via my my website. So.
I love it. Breathwork is, I don't know if you've ever tried breathwork, sis, but it is life-changing. Now, I haven't gone through a whole, series. I know people, they have like master classes, they have events where they have the breathwork instructors come in, and it is a like somewhat religious experience, honestly. It is food for the spirit. And do you provide this virtually and in person, or is it just how do people get both? Okay,
virtually
so we're
and
gonna
in person. Yes,
should have a community event.
I think we have to connect offline, and maybe Roots and Rhythm and Dr. Gayl Swaby should co-opt a breath work.
When the weather's nice, we can just do it like at a park or something.
Yeah, that would be great. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's powerful, and people have found that they are able to release like burdens and things that they have been carrying for such a long time, and then reclaim something that they have lost along the way. So yeah, it's a powerful journey that people go through without any substances. So let's put it that way. Yes, that's the experience that you get.
Is this similar to like a sound bath?
It can be. Okay. Yes, it can be. Yeah, it just goes a little bit deeper than a sound bath.
Okay, because I did a sound bath and it was too woo-woo for me. I was just there.
Okay.
Yeah. But breathing, I feel like, is always relaxing, so it just sounds better. But that sound bath was very...
Yes, with the breath work, it's intentional breathing. So we're counting you through the breathing process while we are helping you to set an intention and to have you receive and reclaim that intention that you are.
I'm open. Listen, I'll try anything once.
Yes.
And twice if I like it. So we'll see.
Yeah, I love that we're talking about this because, number one, Sankofa, anything Sankofa, I have multiple West African symbols tattooed on my skin, not because I thought they looked cool, but because I really wanted to connect with
symbolism.
With our roots, right?
They have meaning, yes.
They have meaning and utility. And so I'm so happy, Dr. Swaby, that you are not only a member of your community providing this conversations like these, but you're doing this for so many people on so many platforms in so many ways. And there's even more on the way. So I feel honored to have been a part of this conversation.
I'm so grateful that we met, that you and Vlad were at the same conference. There is no coincidences. Very happy.
Everything in alignment proceeds. I love it. So for those of you who are listening, thank you for being another part of this special conversation with Roots and Rhythm. It's your boy Vlad the Bull, your number one embrace coach.
And Angie La Cyber Mommy.
And
Dr. Gayl Crump Swaby.
We are out of here.
Stay rooted.
Yeah.